things aren't as bad as they seem. At least that's what it feels like these days for the Dallas Mavericks. Kevin Gray of 105.3 The Fan. I appreciate everyone subscribing to my YouTube channel right here at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button that you see right there. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, also at Kevin Gray Sports. This Dallas Mavericks team has found themselves winning 3 out of their last 4 games, including their last 2 games in a row at the American Airlines Center after getting a 127-122 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Kristaps Porzingis played his best game of the season, 27 points, over 10 rebounds, had 6 blocks, was named the defensive player of the game for the Dallas Mavericks in their latest win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And as bad as things have been for this team over the last couple of weeks, a team that's in the bottom third in defensive rating in the NBA, a team that has struggled shooting the ball from the three-point line, has missed a ton of games from several players, including Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, Josh Richardson, and Dorian Finney-Smith due to the COVID-19 protocols. This team has weathered the early season storm through 25 games, and at 11-14, yes, find themselves just 2 games out of the 8th seed in the Western Conference, which ironically is being held down by the Western Conference final participant from this past season, the Denver Nuggets. I've been one of the ones that's been calling in whether or not this team's message is still being received by head coach Rick Carlisle. But you give them credit in their last 4 basketball games, 3 of them being wins, a team that has showed grit, determination, and fight, although be it not necessarily the best defensive performances, but enough stops in enough key times and places in games to be able to pull out wins. You didn't like what you saw at the end of the Minnesota Timberwolves game, giving up 45 points in that fourth quarter, 22 of those being scored by Malik Beasley, who hit 6 threes and was absolutely spectacular in that fourth quarter to keep a terrible Timberwolves team in the basketball game. But as Luka Doncic has talked about, the main point of all of this is to win basketball games. In fact, here is Luka Doncic talking about that, about learning how to close out games. But hey, the main point of all this is to win basketball games.
I mean, for us, it's whatever we have to do to win, Obviously, today they went on a run in the fourth quarter. But right now, it doesn't matter, just that we got to win. So I think that's the point.
So Luka Doncic understands that it's hard to get wins in this league, in the NBA. And you think about what this team has gone through, a team that at one point had lost 6 straight basketball games, questions about whether or not Rick Carlisle's message was still being received by this team, porous defensive play, the inability to shoot the ball from the three-point line. And yes, they are still under 500, but a team that seems like its psyche has been fixed a little bit with a couple of wins in the last 2 games and 3 out of its last 4. Hey, Coach, you've talked about through this season that you don't want to use excuses as to the performance at times for this team, but this team has gone through a lot. What have you learned about the resolve of this team, especially over the last couple of weeks for what they've gone through to now find themselves playing a little bit better these days?
Yeah, it's a long year. 47 games to go. We still have the vast majority of the season left. And we knew coming in that with the schedule structured the way it was, even if we didn't have COVID issues, we were going to be tested in ways that we couldn't possibly imagine. 13 of 19 on the road, the difficulty of the schedule, et cetera. So, the level of resolve has been good, in the last 4 games. The game we had in Atlanta was a big one. And then, the second night of the back-to-back coming home against Golden State was challenging, but we bounced back on Saturday. And then, last night we got through that. And, we've just got to keep going. And it's going to come down to our basics. It's going to come down to transition defense, closeouts, contesting shots and rebounding. And at the other end, it's going to come down to, playing efficiently, attacking the basket as much as we can and getting quality threes off of those attacks, and then getting back on defense and then doing it all over again.
Which is extremely important because you didn't get your best game from Luka Doncic in the Minnesota Timberwolves game, even though he scored 14 of his 26 points in the fourth quarter to help close things out. Also getting contributions from Josh Richardson, who had a season-high 8 assists. But more importantly, you saw the emergence of Kristaps Porzingis, who obviously was coming back from a meniscus tear, but played by far his best game of the season, both offensively and defensively. You saw the shot creativity and shot making, putting the ball on the deck, cutting and moving without the basketball, shooting the ball from 34 feet from the three-point line. And you saw on the defensive end him being the shot protector, the rim alterer, and also a guy who was blocking shots and putting his team in better positions, moving better, it seemed like, than the last couple of weeks, because there were major questions and Knicks fans laughing at the Mavs about this trade because you didn't see the Kristaps Porzingis that we saw during the bubble, and his ability to gain the kind of rhythm that he needed to was buoyed by the idea that he played 8 minutes and 36 seconds in the first quarter, a guy who in recent weeks has talked about, hey, I need to play more in the first quarter to develop the rhythm that's expected of me to be able to be the kind of player and unicorn that you expect me to be. In fact, here's Kristaps Porzingis talking about that after the Minnesota Timberwolves game, about how he's feeling, quote-unquote, much better about the rhythm he's developing by playing longer stretches in the first quarter.
Yeah, much better, much better. I'm just more calm when I know that I'm not, coming out early. And for me as a big, I just feel better when I'm playing longer stretches, because I don't have the ball in my hands the whole time, and I have to get in that rhythm and find my opportunities and find my situations. So it's definitely working better. And also I'm just spending more time on the court, playing more games with these guys, and all of that adding up. I think it's coming together, and we're playing better basketball.
So Kristaps Porzingis, you can tell, is feeling much better about his game, and Rick Carlisle feeling much better about his game himself with respect to how he's been playing, because this team is going to need a healthy Kristaps Porzingis in his game and the variety of game that he brings to be able to find themselves getting and clawing back into the Western Conference picture where they feel like they need to be. Additionally, this team needs to continue shooting the ball from the three-point line, getting back to the mean where they were, where last season they were a top 5 three-point shooting team, and this year at points during the season were dead last in the NBA in terms of three-point field goal percentage. So there's a lot that this team still needs to work on, but at the same time, the last 3 games that they've won, 3 out of their last 4, yes, have not been against the best teams. Golden State still clinging and trying to figure things out with Stephen Curry and what they are doing out in Golden State. And you beat up on a Atlanta basketball team. Then you had an opportunity to beat a Minnesota Timberwolves team. But you have to win the games that you're supposed to win in the NBA, especially when you have the talents of a Luka Doncic. And more so than anything, the cohesion of this team is going to be extremely important in their next 4 home games when they take on the Atlanta Hawks, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Detroit Pistons, to find the continuity that they have desired to have going into this season, where we thought this team could be a potential top 4 seed in the Western Conference. These next 4 games are really going to define how the Mavericks move forward, not just in terms of moving up in the Western Conference, but how the confidence and psyche and mental maturity of this team grows given what they've been through already this year. No other team in the NBA has dealt more in terms of the COVID situation in the way that the Dallas Mavericks have, maybe other than the Miami Heat and the Washington Wizards, and how they have missed several key players and starters on this team due to the COVID-19 protocols that the NBA has put in place and missing those players.
Hey, Dwight, good to see you. This team has been through a lot through the first 25 games of this year. From your perspective, what have you learned about this team, about the resolve it's had, and getting through a rough patch and now, playing a little bit better over these last few games?
I think first and foremost that we can and we will stick together. I think we have each other's backs, and every season has ups and downs, but this one especially has some unique challenges, and I think we've done a good job of staying supportive of one another, staying positive, and staying the course. So as we continue to figure things out on the court, I think we'll start to show that in the box score.
But now that this full roster is healthy, now they can begin to really start to play the kind of basketball that they are capable of playing. And this 4-game stretch at home is going to be extremely important for them to define who they are as a basketball team and what they need to be. And that brings me to this. The Dallas Mavericks are a terrible defensive basketball team. All this talk about how they were supposed to be better defensively. I know James Johnson's been missing the last couple of games due to some knee soreness. But at the same time, you brought in Josh Richardson. You brought in James Johnson. You brought in individuals that you thought would collectively make this team tougher and better on the defensive end. The Dallas Mavericks just need to realize what they are. A team that can outscore you any night when they are hitting shots, especially from the three-point line. And they're going to have to get key stops in the most important moments to outlast teams. Because the way that they are defending right now, you say, Kevin, well, they defended at points throughout this season, especially when they had the 51-point blowout against the Los Angeles Clippers in other games this year where they've been better defensively. Luka Doncic at times has played much better on the defensive end, getting in the passing lane, steals, Kristaps Porzingis blocking shots. They're going to have to play their best defense in spurts while outlasting teams by using their offensive firepower once it gets more consistent with guys like Tim Hardaway, Dorian Finney-Smith getting back to his ways of shooting the ball from the three-point line, especially in the corners. This team is going to just have to outscore you. Kind of reminds you of another team in Dallas who had to do a lot of the same because of how historically bad their defense was, and the Dallas Cowboys having to try and outscore everybody before, of course, their franchise quarterback and Dak Prescott got hurt. That is what this Dallas Mavericks team is going to have to be and realize what they are in terms of in an identity. They can outscore you. They can score in bunches. They've got two guys who can put up 25 points a night. And then when you get contributions from Tim Hardaway, Josh Richardson, and others, this team can score points and can score points with anybody in this league. But defensively, they're not going to be a top 15 defense this season. They're going to have to be a team that gets defensive stops in the most important points of basketball games while relying on their offensive prowess to be able to win them basketball games. And I don't know if that's necessarily a formula to win a championship, but for right now, until they get better defensively with better players defensively, this is what the Mavericks are. They're going to have to outscore teams and outlast them to have the ability to win basketball games and to do so with their top two guys in Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. And for Kristaps Porzingis, the confidence that he is growing in terms of his overall development in his offensive game, being more comfortable and being more vocal about what he wants to see in minutes and being able to execute when he's out there on the floor, should give Maverick fans confidence that this will continue to improve as this season goes on. But everything starts and ends, of course, with Luka Doncic. That's where this thing will go and how far he takes them. But his commitment to being better defensively in the key spots that they need to be and getting stops when they need to, much like they did against the Minnesota Timberwolves, will be the key to this team climbing back into the Western Conference picture and finding themselves trying to avoid being in those play-in games when you get to the end of the season as far as the Western Conference playoffs are concerned. The Dallas Mavericks have their next 4 games at home as they take on the Atlanta Hawks, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Detroit Pistons before going on the road to take on the Houston Rockets. We will see if this Dallas Mavericks team, who's won 3 out of their last 4 ball games, can refine their identity as who they are offensively while getting key stops and key points at the ends of ball games to be able to climb back into the Western Conference picture. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to make sure you hit that subscribe button for Kevin Gray Sports of 105.3 The Fan. We will talk to you later. This has been The Gray Area. Peace.